So the DryerJack, it talks about zero back pressure roof vent termination. Majority of roof vent terminations out there actually are against code. Number one, they have screens on them. Number two, they actually diminish the amount of airflow that a 4-inch round pipe can carry. The DryerJack is designed, just like all of our products, specifically for venting a dryer. So a couple of the points on that slide, the collar and the curved damper maximize the airflow. The hood is curved, but also that damper door inside of it is curved. We've learned from the Dryer L that a nice curved 10-inch radius actually has very efficient airflow. So we incorporated that into the damper door rather than the air coming up and hitting a flat surface and having to bounce off and figure out which way to go and some of that air being directed back down. It follows the natural curve of the DryerJack and has zero back pressure down into the system. Also, the requirement of a damper door, that damper door comes down and sits on a ledge. So because it's a sharp ledge that it sits on, it prevents bird and rodent entry. The collar itself that comes up through the bottom has a triple seal. It's a mechanical seal and then silicone at the top and the bottom because we really want to try and eliminate any potential for leaks. Roofers always say, oh, don't give me any more penetrations in my roof because it's going to leak. Or that's why some people say, well, you can't vent a dryer through the roof. Well, the reason is because most of the vent terminations are not code compliant or they are prone to leaks. So we've done a lot of things to make sure that it is virtually leak proof. And then there's easy installation with it. But the biggest point is, and there's been more attention to this product now because there was a rewrite of the code that says the opening of your vent termination cannot minimize the amount of airflow from a 4-inch round pipe. So if you think about your standard Brown model or your standard other vent terminations out there for the roof, they have a very small opening, and part of it is to try and prevent bird and rodent entry, and they have a screen which is against code. So this is one of the few, if not one of the only ones out there that is code compliant for venting a dryer.
And then on our DryerJack too, you said that there's a difference in the like the CFM that comes out versus some of the competitor products.
Yeah, so there's an interesting video that shows us testing, and they measure back pressure or resistance of airflow in a system, and they use water column inches of pressure. So looking at the amount of pressure that's created when you apply a vent termination will tell you how efficient the airflow is. So the DryerJack basically has zero airflow restriction. It doesn't add any additional pressure to that airflow. They look at something of, they say anything that is 0.6 water column inches of pressure or higher starts to become a hazard because one, your dryer is working hard, the heat builds up, and then two, lint is accumulating. So the DryerJack itself adds zero back pressure to it. So Rick's talking about the Magna Hela gauge that measures the back pressure in water column inches of pressure. He's pointing out a standard gooseneck vent and the amount of pressure that it creates. One, because the opening's not that big. Two, because the damper door typically is flat. So even though it's a rounded hood, the damper door inside is flat, so the airflow runs up, hits that flat surface, and some of it's redirected back down. Here's a standard Brown vent. And again, if you watch that gauge on the right-hand side, you'll see how that pressure jumps up because
so
the air hits the flat
with nothing
surface.
on there, with the wide open, it's between the 0.25 and the 0.3, and then as we add the caps, it's increasing the pressure.
Right. So there is going to be resistance, right? That air is flowing through pipe. There is going to be some resistance. So there's some initial resistance when that gauge is measuring the airflow through the system. Rick's describing now the DryerJack itself, how big the opening is there, and showing the curved damper door and the curved hood, which again has the same designs as the Dryer L. So when we put this on, watch the needle and see if there's any change as we apply it.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about airflow efficiency, safe and efficient dryer venting. People worry about, well, if you vent up, that lint's not going to get out of there. Well, based on the standard vent terminations, you saw the amount of resistance and the fact that air gets directed back down into the ductwork. Yeah, lint's not going to get out. But with the curved damper door and the curved hood and that maximum airflow efficiency, the lint does get up and out of there. So that's the big benefit of the DryerJack, why it is so efficient in the dryer venting. You see what happens when you have a screen on them. There's no screen, maximum airflow efficiency. Because that edge sits on a lip and it's a sharp edge, it prevents bird and rodent from getting in there. And because we work with service companies, we made sure the opening was large enough that they get their cleaning equipment down in there to clean out your ductwork, which should be cleaned out, every 1 or 2 years.
Awesome.